RESP is the Registered Education Savings Plan meant for parents or family members to save for their children's college or university tuition. I'll be breaking down everything you need to know about the RESP, the government grants, what happens when you deposit cash, what happens when the child withdraws money, and what happens if they don't go to school. Before I get into it, if you're a beginner Canadian investor and you're looking for tips, advice, or starting points, I've created a small ebook to give you some guidance. All you have to do is sign up with your email to get access. I'm going to use your email to market my course to anyone who signs up. I created a beginner Canadian finance course. It's 8 hours of pre-recorded content related to everything Canadian finance. I hope the lighting isn't too bad. I'm not good with the lighting. I see a lot of sun. Hopefully it looks good in the video. The RESP is a registered savings account. It's not an investment. You use the account to invest. So you can choose risky investments. You can choose safe investments if you'd like. There is no annual limit, but there is a lifetime limit per child. You can only contribute $50,000 total. That's it. If it takes you 18 years to contribute $50K, or you put $50K all in 1 year, that's your max amount per child. The RESP is similar to an RRSP, where the interest, gains, and dividends grow tax-free in the account until you take the money out. But unlike the RRSP, you do not get an income deduction when contributing. If you contributed to your RSP, you get an income deduction. That's a great perk. The RESP, however, does not have this perk. If you deposit money into the kids' RESP, there is no deduction, but there are other benefits. There is currently a program, I hope it doesn't go away, called the Canadian Education Savings Grant, CESG, where the government will deposit an additional 20% per year up to a max amount of $2,500 per year and a lifetime limit of $7,200 per year. This sounds confusing. Let me break it down into separate parts. The government will give you 20% per year, but they'll only give you a max grant of $500 per year. So if you want to time it perfectly, if you contribute $2,500, you'll get the max $500 grant from the government. That's a guaranteed 20% return on your deposit. It's almost unheard of. If you have the funds and the ability, I would recommend doing at least $2,500 per year so you get the full grant. Now the second part, the CESG maxes out at $7,200 over the lifetime of the RESP for each child. So you can deposit $2,500 every year for 14 years and you'll max out at $7,000 or $7,200. This number hasn't changed in like 15 years, which is frustrating because tuition has doubled or tripled, so the max amount means less every additional year. One item to note, if you get an inheritance or lump sum of $50K, you can deposit that entire $50K into your kid's RESP. However, you'll only get $500 grant from the government. The max grant is $500. So if you want, you can stagger the payments over a few years, but keep in mind, the 20% CESG is a max amount per year. If you open an RESP with a bank or accredited institution, the bank will apply for the CESG for you. It should happen automatically, so regularly check your RESP to ensure you're receiving the grant when you're supposed to. If not, it means they haven't filed the form or applied for the grant, which I've heard has happened on the rare occasion. One additional item, the provincial government in Quebec kicks in another 10%. So in Quebec, the grant is 30%, not just 20%, which is great. The benefits of an RESP is that the account can grow on a tax-deferred basis, similar to an RRSP, until your child goes to school and starts to withdraw the funds. Remember, everything is taxable except a TFSA, so since your child is withdrawing the RESP, that's considered income. So they'll be taxed, but they'll be in a lower tax bracket, so you're essentially income splitting with your child. If you pay tax at a 45% tax bracket, you contribute to an RESP. Instead of you withdrawing $100K and paying $45K in tax, your child will withdraw $100K, let's say over 4 years, and pay $15 or $20K in tax. The benefits are twofold: the tax-deferred growth over 18 years and tax savings upon withdrawal. I would only recommend going with banks or brokerages that you recognize. There are so many scams out there that promise you more growth or more income. It's not true, it rarely is. I would go with Questrade, Wealthsimple, or any of the big 6 Canadian banks. Now, if we want to talk about what to invest in, I would go with index funds. I won't spend time talking about that here. I've made many videos about beginner or safe investments, but I want to mention, I wouldn't recommend GICs. These are too low and too slow. You won't be earning much. Your child's investments won't be keeping up with inflation. In 2022, let's say GICs are 4.5%, but inflation is just over 7%. So indirectly, your investments are losing money. I would go with index funds. Lastly, what happens if your child doesn't go to school? If your kid goes to school for 4 years, you have 100K in the RESP, they withdraw 25K per year, they pay tax on it, everyone wins, that's how it's supposed to work. But what happens if they don't go to school? Thankfully, you have 4 options. First, if they're 18, they don't go to school, you can keep it open. You can have an RESP for a total of 36 years. So if they decide to go to school eventually, they can use it. Second, if you have another child, you can reallocate those RESP funds. It's not mandatory to stay with the one child. That's an easy option if you have it available. Third, you can transfer the RESP to your own RRSP, but a few notes on this. You can only transfer a max of $50,000, and also make sure you actually have $50,000 of room available in your RRSP to make the transfer. If you max out your RRSP every year, this option will not be available to you. Fourth and last option, it's actually pretty serious. If your child has an RESP and you got the full 7,200 CESG grant and they don't go to school, you actually lose the grant. You have to pay it back. If you got 500 in CESG over the lifetime, you have to pay it back. If you got the full 7,200 CESG, you have to pay it back. The RESP is meant for school savings. The grant is for school savings. If they don't go to school, they have to pay it back. It sucks, but let's be real, it's fair. Okay, not only do you have to pay the CESG back, but you also have to pay tax on the gain in the RESP. Since the RESP is a tax-deferred account, once you pull the money out, you'll pay tax on the gains only. If you contributed $20,000 and now it's worth $50,000, you have a $30,000 gain. If you pull the money out, if you close the account, you'll owe tax on that $30K. You only owe tax on the increase over and above what you invested. Last item I'll discuss is where to open an account. I'll recommend 2 of my favorite options. If you want the RESP to be easy to use, low fees, and automated, I would recommend Wealthsimple Invest. It's their robo-advisor service. I actually currently use it for my own RRSP, and I made a few videos on the income I've made. Keep in mind, you can't use Wealthsimple Trade, meaning you can't buy and sell your own child's RESP or anything in it. It has to be Wealthsimple Invest, and it has to be automated. My second recommendation is Questrade. If you want to buy and sell stocks in the RESP, if you feel like you know what you're doing, Questrade has an RESP account that lets you invest on your own and generally has low fees if you're buying ETFs. That's all for this video. It's just an example of what's included in the course. I have over 60 videos and counting. If you're interested, sign up to my email list to get more information. I worked really hard on scripting and filming 8 hours of content on Canadian finance, but not only will you get videos, you'll get lifetime access to my Discord server as well to chat and ask questions live, but I'll also hold live monthly or semi-monthly Q&As to chat with anyone who's interested to get live answers of me on video. I held a Q&A this month, but nobody showed up even though 18 people signed up. It's probably my fault for not advertising it enough, so here goes. Sign up for my email list if you're interested in getting more information about a Canadian finance course. That's all, folks.